Augusto Pinochet. He came to power in Chile through a military coup on the 11th of September 1973, overthrowing the elected government of Salvador Allende with the support of the United States. The immediate aftermath was a war waged against his own people. Thousands arrested, tortured, killed, or disappeared. The National Stadium in Santiago became a detention and torture facility. Pinochet's Chile became a laboratory for both military repression and radical free market economic policy simultaneously. He ruled for 17 years before being forced into a plebiscite he lost and a managed transition to democracy. He was arrested in London in 1998 on a Spanish extradition warrant for crimes against humanity, setting a landmark precedent in international law. He died in 2006 without having been convicted, but the attempt to hold him accountable changed how the world thought about the legal reach of human rights law. George W. Bush. He made the decision to invade Afghanistan in October 2001 following the September 11 attacks, and then to invade Iraq in March 2003, based on the claim that Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction. The Afghan War became the longest in American history. The Iraq War, justified by intelligence that proved to be wrong, destabilized the country, contributed to the rise of ISIS, and cost hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilian lives, in addition to thousands of American and coalition military casualties. Bush made these decisions within a specific post-September 11 political environment in which the appetite for military action was high and the institutional checks on presidential power were unusually weak. The long-term consequences of both wars continued to unfold for decades, fundamentally altering the Middle East and the way the United States thought about military intervention. Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He has overseen Turkish military operations in Syria, Iraq, and Libya over the course of his leadership, using armed force as an instrument of regional influence in ways that no Turkish leader had attempted in generations. Turkey's interventions in northern Syria, targeting both ISIS and Kurdish forces, reshaped the dynamics of the Syrian civil war and created significant friction with NATO allies, particularly the United States, which had relied on Kurdish fighters as its primary ground partner against ISIS. Erdogan's Libya intervention in 2019 helped turn the tide of that country's civil war in favor of the Tripoli-based government. His military decisions have been consistently tied to his domestic political positioning, using nationalist sentiment and security concerns to consolidate support at home while projecting power abroad. Leopold II. He never fought a conventional war in the traditional sense, but what he did to the Congo Free State between 1885 and 1908 constitutes one of history's most sustained campaigns of violent exploitation. He claimed the Congo as his personal property, not as a Belgian colony, but as his own private estate, and used a private army to force the population to harvest rubber at gunpoint. Those who failed to meet quotas had their hands cut off. Villages were burned. A population that may have numbered 20 million was reduced by perhaps 10 million through killings, starvation, and disease over roughly 2 decades. What Leopold waged was a war against an entire population in the name of profit, dressed in the language of humanitarian civilization. The international outcry that eventually ended his rule in the Congo was one of the first modern human rights campaigns, driven by journalists, missionaries, and activists who documented and publicized what was happening. Idi Amin. He seized power in Uganda in a military coup in 1971 and launched a reign of terror that killed somewhere between 100,000 and 500,000 Ugandans over the following 8 years. In 1978, he made the decision to invade Tanzania, annexing a strip of territory in what appeared to be an impulsive act driven by internal political pressures. Tanzania's response was overwhelming. Julius Nyerere committed the Tanzanian military to a full counter-invasion that pushed into Uganda, toppled Amin's government, and drove him into exile within months. It was one of the rare cases in African history of a neighboring state militarily removing a dictator, and it happened largely because Amin had started a war he had no realistic capacity to win. He lived out the rest of his life in Saudi Arabia, dying in 2003 without ever facing accountability for what he had done. If this video was helpful, please give the video a like and share it with a friend. It's the best way to support the channel and helps us keep creating content like this. Don't forget to subscribe to stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.